Herzlich willkommen, meine Damen und Herren, bei einer neuen Ausgabe der DGWA News. Wir haben ja schon mehrfach über Batterien und Batterieproduktionen gesprochen und wissen nun auch schon sehr viel über Lithium, wir wissen viel über Mangan. Zwei Produkte fehlen noch, die man braucht für eine Batterie, nämlich Kobalt und Nickel. Und genau darüber werden wir heute sprechen. Ich habe mir zwei Herren eingeladen, das sind die Direktoren von ACAP Energy Limited aus Australien und die sind die Experten genau für diese zwei fehlenden Teile noch und darüber sprechen wir heute. Sie werden sich gleich selber vorstellen. So, welcome here to Frankfurt, the directors of ACAP Energy Limited. We start with Paul Ingram. Paul, please introduce yourself, your experience and your company.
Thank you, Oswald. I'm a geologist, also a director of ACAP Energy, and I've probably had 40 years of around the world looking at different ore bodies. ACAP Energy is now focused on cobalt, and deliberately so. We looked at many commodities for battery manufacture, and we settled on a project in Western Australia called Wilconi.
So Paul, why did you pick this Wilconi project?
We picked it specifically, one, because it had very high cobalt grades, unusually high for a nickel laterite. Secondly, it has a big history of past drilling. There's over 1,500 drill holes already been drilled in the property. There's about 40,000 assays that have been done on the project. So we were able to take that database and recalculate a new resource that we haven't announced yet, but we are comfortable that in that project we will find a deposit, cobalt deposit, with more than 20 years of mine life.
Okay, Paul, you are not the first company producing cobalt. You're not the only one. What is so special at your company?
I guess in a nutshell, we are focusing on the metallurgy side of this deposit. I'm comfortable with the geology, but a lot of these projects suffer from difficult or very expensive metallurgy. So we are leading the project with very advanced metallurgy, principally looking at atmospheric leaching. We've got some great people working on this at the moment, and I'm confident that we will have something different than a lot of mining companies in this business.
Okay, Paul, we are here in Germany, and you know Germany is already very green, and it becomes more and more greener. So what do you do for green mining, if you could say mining is somehow green?
Okay, I think a good answer to that is that the Australian policy for environmental, traditional landowner relationships, Australia probably leads the world in environmental rules and regulations, particularly for mining. Australia is a very big mining country. So companies working in Australia have to comply with very strict rules and regulations that any other country would be proud of.
So, Paul, we spoke about the green mining. I can imagine that it is much more expensive than others do it.
No, Oswald, it's not. In Australia, Australia's got a very proud history of environmental security on mining. That goes right from the very beginning of mining operations through to rehabilitation. The old days of mining being a legacy of disasters and whatnot, that doesn't exist in Australia anymore. Australia's probably got the most stringent environmental controls in the mining business anywhere in the world. So, as I said earlier, a country like Germany or any European green group would love what we're doing.
So unfortunately, I've never been in Australia before, but I saw on the map that you're producing, or you will produce your cobalt somewhere, I would say, in the middle of nowhere. Is there already infrastructure there?
Yeah, the middle of nowhere in Australia is very difficult to determine because It's a big country. Western Australia has got a traditional history of mining. It's one of the largest gold mining areas in the world. Where we are at Wiluna, there's an existing mine there owned by Blackham Resources. It's got a 300-man camp there. There's 1 hour flights from Perth every day into the right on top of our deposit. There's a major gas pipeline runs right through the area. Road network, power, everything is there, and the workforce is there. So infrastructure, it probably is as good as starting a mine on the outskirts of Dresden.
As I already had different interview partners, I know a lot of mining. I know we start at the PFS, then DFS, and at the end you're producing your stuff.
Correct.
So where exactly are we right now, and when will you produce your cobalt?
Okay, the stage we're at now, because of the history of the project, we are at the scoping study stage now of collating all of the historical data. We are already conducting our own metallurgical work, and we hope to, in middle of next year, have completed a pre-feasibility study. And that's very fast in mining terms, but because we're lucky to have some good data, we can fast track that process. What we call definitive feasibility study, DFS, we're gearing that up for 24 months from startup from now. And that process will then lead on to commissioning and mining. We are optimistic, but we're fairly confident that within 3 years we should be digging ore.
So thank you, Paul. We are now switching to John. John, please introduce yourself and your position and your history.
Thank you, Oswald. I have more than 30 years' experience in managing and working in large organisations, covering both finance, strategy and capital markets.
Okay, so we spoke about cobalt, and I know that cobalt is the most expensive part of the battery parts. So is this the most important reason why your company focused on cobalt?
Cobalt is the preferred choice by auto manufacturers for nickel, manganese and cobalt. What the industry is experiencing at the moment really is a revolution. So there is a demand shortage for both nickel and cobalt. In 2023 we expect there will be supply deficits for both those commodities, which are very important into the manufacture of batteries.
So we are here in Germany. Germany is the country of the engineers, and as cobalt is the most expensive part of the batteries, I could imagine that a lot of engineers think about how to replace this very expensive part. Can you imagine that this will be somehow replaced?
Engineers are working hard to deal with the supply side. Cobalt and nickel are both crucial minerals in a battery pack for the battery's performance, its charge and recharge cycle and its life cycle. What occurs with the engineers is they're looking to reduce the proportion of cobalt in a battery. We currently have in the market what they call NMC 622. That is a battery pack that will be installed in most EV cars to 2025. You'll then see the launch to market of what they call an NMC 811. So you'll reduce from 20% cobalt in that pack to 10%. What's on the drawing board is a 955 NMC, which reduces the cobalt down to 5%. And it's this large demand for where the EV industry is heading. Bloomberg report up to 500 million cars will be on the road in 2040 that are EV.
John, we are here in Frankfurt. Your company is exchange listed in Australia and in Frankfurt. And of course, our audience is very interested. Why should they invest in your company, and why should they buy shares of ACAP Energy Limited?
Okay, that's a good question. We are here in Frankfurt and in Germany for good reasons, and what's driving that is strategy. Europe will be number 2 in terms of global ranking for EV producers as we move forward past 2030. We're here to seek and cement partnerships, collaborations with OEMs, automotive, and also with the battery manufacturers. So we want to align in partnership with large organisations in Europe so that we can both grow together. So our focus is Europe for our products.
So John, as a shareholder, we are very interested in what events are needed to rise the share price. For example, offtake agreements, or somehow drilling results, or do we need to wait until you start your production?
No, anything that's relevant in terms of continuous disclosure to the market, we will announce. As we move into the PFS, that in itself is the first milestone. So we will have results on the metallurgy that come from that. We'll have an updated JORC statement of what reserves are available for mining, the grade, and then we will move into the definitive feasibility study, which is another milestone. And what that does is that gets the project in readiness for its construction and then into production. So that's a key milestone. As you progress through PFS with public announcements on the market and DFS, you can expect the share price to increase. And once you get into production, you can see another level. So the most acute increase in growth will be from PFS to the end of DFS for the company's stock price.
So John and Paul, thank you for being here. It was a great pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Oswald. It has been a very enjoyable discussion with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Meine Damen und Herren, das waren die Direktoren von ACAP Energy Limited. Wir haben nun alle Bestandteile einer Batterieproduktion näher beleuchtet, eben Lithium, Mangan und jetzt auch Kobalt und Nickel. Wenn Sie da nähere Informationen haben wollen, werden wir die entsprechend einblenden. Auch weiterhin gibt es Videos auf YouTube über den DGWA News Channel. Ich bedanke mich bei Ihnen fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal und auf Wiedersehen.